It's a solo flight today. Leslie is taking a day off. Today we're talking about International Women's Day coming up March 8th. A little later on in the show, we'll be joined by 10,000 villages. You can shop the whole world in one store. But first, women in the workforce have changed drastically in the past years. And if you are in the market for a new career, it's never too late. To talk more about these changes is Manita Sens from Times Change. So have times changed, Manita?
Definitely. There's much more women in the workforce than there were before. We have 47% of the labor force are women. So that's pretty good. We've seen a 10% increase since the mid-70s in women working in the workforce. There's definitely a variety of jobs that women can do now. And we've seen significant gains, for instance, in the areas of finance, business, and medicine. Particularly, we have about 55% of Canada's doctors and dentists who are women. So that's really great. But on the other hand, we also have a large population of women who are working who happen to be part of the contingent labor force, which means that they're working either in temporary, full-time, or part-time jobs, or they're self-employed, which means they don't have access to employment insurance benefits necessarily. Right. Or training, etc.
And is that where you come into play? I mean, they're trying to reestablish themselves and get themselves into a position where they have more security and more benefits. Is that where you come in?
Yeah, so as an employment counselor, what I would do is I would work with women who are looking for work and try to help them figure out, what direction to go in, or help them to figure out and strategize, how to do a systematic job search. To find the type of work that they're looking for. But the main thing is that you do need to know what kind of work you want in order to focus and persevere.
So I would imagine you're a little bit of a detective in that regard, right? Because maybe sometimes when a woman comes in, they're not really sure what it is they want to do themselves. So it's asking the right questions and pulling that information out of them to kind of see where they fit in?
Absolutely. That happens all the time. That's a very common issue for employment counselors across the board. But at Times Change, what we do is we offer a career planning program, and through that program we help women to determine their skills, their abilities, their values and interests, really to create a profile of yourself in determining what types of occupations would fit in with that.
Now, would part of that involve helping people prepare a resume, helping them to prepare for an interview situation? Because let's face it, if you haven't been in that position for a long period of time, you tend to forget how that all works.
Absolutely,
right?
Yeah, and that's what we're there for. So we run job search workshops, and also individually we would help women prepare the resume to market their skills based on the type of work they're looking for to the best of their ability, and then to also help them prepare for the interview so that they say the right things, so that they know what skills should be discussed, so that the employer understands that they're the right person for the job.
Now, I know a common complaint, over the years for women have been the lack of opportunities maybe at the top of the corporate ladder. Is that getting any better these days?
We certainly have seen a lot more women in managerial positions, but we haven't seen a great increase in, say, for instance, the top 100 CEOs across Canada. There's a very minute population of the CEOs who happen to be women, and there's various factors for that. There's an organization called A Commitment to Training and Education for Women. They're a provincial umbrella group that does a lot of studies and, of course, advocates for women in education and training. And they have a number of fact sheets, if you ever wanted any information on that, on women and work and the labor market, and some of the variances between men and women.
Right. Okay, now speaking of between men and women, how about pay? I know that there's been a great deal of inequity over the years between what a woman would make on a given job and a man. Is that evening out at all?
Well, we still see that women are only earning 63% of what men are earning. So no, the gap, the gender gap with how much we're earning hasn't really closed yet. So we're still working on that.
Wow. And really, it has changed. I mean, I have a friend who's a firefighter, a woman who's a firefighter. Now, that wasn't traditionally a woman's role, but we're not really seeing that anymore, right? These are the traditional women occupations, and these are the traditional men. That's all kind of starting to change, isn't it?
It's certainly starting to change, but because women happen to be the ones who bear the children and care for the children, they tend to go into occupations that fit in with, their life, their scenario, things like that. So we have seen women go into more non-traditional jobs, but it depends on the economy, the region. For instance, in Alberta, because of a skills shortage, we've seen 116% increase of women in the construction area, and also like about an 83% increase of women working in the science and technical area, which happens to be traditionally more male-dominated. So really, it depends. Yes, there are more women who are going into different non-traditional positions, but it's not necessarily the case in all different regions.
Now, you just touched on the fact that, women have this dual responsibility because they're moms, they're homemakers, caregivers, and they want to be in the workforce. Are we seeing more growth in the home-based business as a result of this?
Actually, yes, that's a very good point that you've just brought up. 1 out of every 10 Canadian women happens to be self-employed, but that does not necessarily mean that they're earning high wages. And they often are the ones who, when you're self-employed, of course, you don't have access to employment insurance, Canada Pension Plan, you're not covered by the Workers' Safety Insurance Board, so if there's any sort of workplace injuries or anything like that, if you're the sole earner, if you've got no benefits, it's a very difficult place to be, but it happens to be an increase or an area where women tend to be growing in the labor force anyways.
Now, is there an event that's coming up?
Yeah.
Okay, tell us a little bit about that.
Sure. We actually, at Times Change Women's Employment Service, we have an International Women's Day event coming up on March the 7th. It's from 9 o'clock to 12 o'clock, and it's a breakfast sort of networking event. And we're going to have a panelist of women, about 5 women who are in a number of different careers, who are successful in their careers. And in fact, it's called Steps to Success. And what we're doing is we're trying to have our clients come to, not just our clients, but also any woman who's looking for work or inspiration about work and careers, come and listen to our panelists and talk about their struggles, what they've done to be successful in their jobs, and how they balance their work and their lives at home.
I'm sure inspiration is an important ingredient in all of this, right?
Absolutely.
Because it can get frustrating, especially if you're trying to juggle the responsibilities of home and your career. Right. So seeing people that are actually making this work, women that are making this work, must make a difference, right?
It definitely does.
Yeah,
absolutely.
All right. Let's put some more information up on the screen. You have a website, timeschange.org, or you can get in touch with them by phone, 416-927-1900. So if a woman comes into your office, you'll meet with them and kind of get them all assessed.
The best thing to do is they can call us, and we've got really good staff who can give them, we talk to people over the phone, or if they come in person, we can assess what their needs are, and then from there we can direct them to the different services and programs that we have, because we do a lot of different things.
All right. Manita Sens, Times Change. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
All right. Coming up, we're going to check out 10,000 villages traveling the world in one store. Don't go away.